We begin our meeting with public comment period. Our rules specify 10 minutes total, but that the board as a whole can decide if they wish for that to be extended, given the amount of people from the public that are present. I'm asking if that is the wish of the board at this time, assuming that we may go over the 10.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Yes. Okay, by consensus. All right, then. We begin our meeting with public comment period. There are 2 minutes per speaker. Will people here in the audience come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to share your thoughts with us.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman and County Commissioners. My name is John Campy. I live in Pleasant Hill Township, 39342 County Road 8. And we did not wash away in the 3-inch rain.
That's good.
I come before you today as this weekend I learned of some very pornographic material that was being circulated to junior high and senior high students by an advocacy group, which was, I understand, funded in the amount of $15,000 by Winona County. As a taxpayer, I am offended that this kind of action might happen. And I would suggest in the future that you either discontinue having nonprofits be sponsored with county taxpayer funds, or that you provide some very close controls to oversight. So I thank you for the opportunity to share with you. I will not share the material with them because it would make a sailor blush. And consequently, on a lighter note, I'd like to mention to this board, I serve as a rural farm appraiser and rural commercial properties. Winona County has perhaps the most user-friendly county to obtain information from the recorder's office, the assessor's office, planning and zoning, or the feedlot officer. And I hope those folks can keep up their good work. I thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to share some comments with us? If so, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Doug Nopar, 29440 County Road 17, Winona. I will say that I'm a strong supporter of the Advocacy Center, and I urge you not just to maintain funding, but to increase funding for them. They provide a vital service for the community. I'm also here to speak about the animal unit cap. I urge you to not waste your time discussing the animal unit cap. 40 years ago, there were probably 700 to 800 dairy farms in Winona County. They were the lifeblood of agriculture in the county. There are a host of corporate, university, and government decisions that have been made over the years that have forced the tremendous decline in the number of dairy farms here and throughout the Midwest. And I will tell you that Winona County's animal unit cap is not one of those decisions. I've passed out to you a summary of agricultural statistics that show that the correlation between the animal unit cap and declining number of dairy farms does not exist. If you look quickly, Winona County since the animal unit cap was put in place in 1997, there's been a 59% decrease in dairy farms. 3 neighboring counties with no animal unit caps, Wabasha, Olmsted, and Houston, 54% decrease, 59% decrease, 61% decrease. I urge you not to waste our time with more discussion of this important rule that was passed more than 2 decades ago. I can't stay for your discussion, but I will leave a stack of these for the press or anybody who wants to pick them up on my chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to share their thoughts with us? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is, here, I get this done. My name is Barb Nelson, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm in here to talk about the animal cap unit also. Many of you folks have already heard what I'm going to say. This is for Steve and Marcia, who obviously probably haven't heard it or didn't understand what we were talking about. 52 years ago, we moved to our home at the Arches, where 3 streams converge and flow into Garvin Brook. All the homes on our side of the road received water from a 4-foot deep spring. This was great water, tested every year by the Minnesota Department of Health because of the museum next door. We now have 300-foot deep wells that produce water not nearly as good tasting in order to be able to safely drink it. Small farms with diversity, like Doug said, lined County Road 25 going to Wyattville. Then row crops began to seem easier and less complicated way to make a living, and floods started coming from these farms, and they're bad. The trout have died, and for one of the reasons is a huge manure pile was stockpiled at the top of the on the upper end of the park, up the hill. And the state and conservation groups keep trying to save us, repairing constantly. I tell you, Lewiston is leaving for Louisiana. The answer isn't to put all these cows in one place west of town, producing a product that doesn't even stay in our county. Our valley story isn't unique. Wells are bad all around Lewiston, and everyone knows it. I talked to a lot of people yesterday, and one guy called me back. He didn't get my phone call, but he called me back on my cell phone and told me, he was from St. Charles, and he told me it was a shame that the land stewardship people are trying to keep the dailies from making more money. Did you know? It's
Can you
not.
wrap up in a sentence?
Yeah, it's not even about that. It's not even about that. What good are subsidies for your own enjoyment if what you take belongs to our children and their children's children? You know, even the dailies need water, and it shouldn't come from plastic bottles.
Ms. Nelson, could you for the record state your address?
Oh, yeah. 23078 Highway 14 in Lewiston.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Please step forward.
I'm Elizabeth Ann Hubline. I reside at 17434 County Road 37 in Altura, 55910. The question before us, one of the questions before us is the cap on AU. Historically, based on studies from the Minnesota Department of Ag, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Department of Health, from 2008 to 2021 indicate that Winona County continues to be one of the highest counties in southeastern Minnesota with nitrate contamination above 10 milligrams per liter. Number 2, the geology in Winona County as we know it is karst, predominantly karst, extremely variable and vulnerable across the county, and we know that water runs downhill. We also know that nitrate levels above 10 milligrams per liter are harmful to both human and animals, and especially infants under 6 months of age. Number 4, the logic and the science continues to tell us that increasing the load of AUs will certainly not reduce the contaminant effects of nitrates, nor the sequestering of carbon in this region, no matter how many cover crops we use. Decisions of this magnitude must be made with the full understanding of the research and the science that is readily available to you as decision makers. My recommendation is that it would be prudent and it would be moral to be making all of our environmental decisions based on the triple bottom line, not just the business as usual profit. We must consider how our decisions affect our people, our planet, and our profit. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard today. My name is Tim Ahrens. I'm at 12969 County Road 31 in Altura. I'd like to talk to you about item 7.2 in regards to discussion of the animal unit cap as well today. I'm afraid that some of the pretenses for the discussion might not have been entirely accurate. There was talk about ideas in the newspaper that farmers are leaving Winona County on the basis of not being able to work with the animal unit cap. And, you know, I do understand that there may be one journalist who might be of that opinion, but I happened to watch the video where he interviewed a farmer who was leaving Winona County, and that farmer listed the animal unit cap among an array of Minnesota feedlot rules that he wasn't interested in complying with any longer. And I should mention that that feedlot, to my understanding, is still open. So while it was sold, it was also bought, and remains an important economic driver in Winona County. Also, there's a suggestion that feedlots are decreasing in Winona County, and it appears to me that one possible reason for this may just be an extremely good feedlot officer who's catching up with some of the feedlots that were listed as active, but maybe moving towards inactive. And, you know, I don't think at this point we can look past the national meltdown in meat processing that occurred over the last few years and look past that reasoning towards the animal unit cap as to why there might be some challenges for feedlots in our county. So I urge you to, as you consider discussion on the animal unit cap in Winona County, remember that Winona County is already a county of yes. We could accept over 1 million animals while maintaining by maintaining our animal unit cap. So please vote no for further discussion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here in the audience that would like to share their thoughts with us?
My name is David White. I live at 705 West Wabasha in Winona. Here, I'm here to talk about the animal unit cap and the proposal to discuss that at the next county board meeting. My contention is that the current animal unit cap of 1,500 animal units is adequate to protect what we have, and there's no reason to change it. There is a proposal from a large dairy farmer to increase their already too large farm to almost 4 times the current animal unit cap. I can see no reason to allow that. We already have in many local wells a nitrate content that exceeds the current maximum for human consumption. Allowing this animal unit or this dairy farm to increase 4 times will do nothing but make that situation worse. So I urge you to not put that on the agenda for further discussion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to share their thoughts with the board?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Margaret Walsh. I live at 1749 West Broadway here in Winona. And I'd just like to talk about the fact that our animal unit cap is going to be 25 years old here coming up next year. If my time from 1998 when it was first put into, when it was first established. And since 25 years, the amount of citizens who have come forward to support that cap and the fact that it's here for 25 years, the amount of different people who have graced your positions over those 25 years and have supported that cap, I think is a really important thing. And I think that it's time we celebrate 25 years of the county supporting itself with that cap. And I can think of no better time. And instead of having it as an agenda item today, I would like to see it put on the agenda as a celebration of 25 years of us working together to keep that cap. And I can think of no better place to do that than at the Minnesota Feedlot Association convention that's coming to Winona County on the 25th year of the establishment of that count, or at the county fair where people are always given recognition. And I think that the people of Winona are owed that 25-year recognition, and I'd like to see that as an agenda item instead. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here in the audience that would like to share their thoughts with the board during this public comment period? And, oh, please go ahead.
Rita McGovern, 875 48th Avenue.
Ms. McGovern, you could turn that down so it's,
Okay.
thank you.
Rita McGovern, 875 48th Avenue. I have a concern over the pornographic material in our community schools, as our first speaker mentioned. Taxpayers here pay teachers to teach academics only, not perverted sex ed. Pornography does not belong in the schools. Public schools should not promote atheistic values that undermine the role of parents and churches and Christian values. Schools that indoctrinate evil will lose enrollment. There are other options for children's education outside of public schools. Pushing evil upon children is indoctrination by perverted individuals. These perverted staff should be removed from their jobs. We pay teachers to teach academics only and not perverted sex ed.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to share their thoughts?
My name is Malia Haugen, address 12969 County Road 31, Altura. And I would also like to urge you to choose to have no further discussion on the animal unit cap, and to reiterate what Margaret said, even to celebrate the animal unit cap and what it has done within our county in protecting our environment, our land, our air, our water, our local economies, community health, and of course, like the more average mid-sized farmer. According to some data from the MPCA, 98% of active feedlots in the entire state are under the 1,500 animal unit cap, or that count as a threshold. So the vast majority of farms in our entire state are well under that limit. Even within Winona County, 99.3% of beef feedlots are under 500 animal units. And among the dairy farms in Winona County, 91% of them are under 500 animal units. So the 1,500 animal unit cap is not hindering farmers from growth. There's still plenty of room for growth and expansion. So again, I'd ask you to please not broach any further discussion on that, and to uphold it and maintain it as is. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to share their thoughts with us? And in addition, as we go forward, if there are folks online who would like to share, prepare yourself to unmute and catch my attention.
Hi, thank you, commissioners. My name is Sam Strukins, 1435 48th Avenue, Goodview, Minnesota. I'm here also to support upholding the animal unit cap. As someone who's worked on various farms in the area and spoken with a number of people and have heard the comments here today, I think that we want to preserve the legacy that the county board put in place 20 years ago, so that people like me can farm, can live here, and can invite more people to want to protect the environment and to protect the water. And I just hope that we can have a conversation with that can allow more farmers to continue living here, and to allow this just to be a place that welcomes all sorts of diversity and people that can live out their dreams. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here in the audience or attending via Ring Central that would like to share a public comment?
I'd like to speak.
Sure. Could you identify yourself by your name and address?
Yep, my name is Olivia Kendall. I live at 359 East Lake Boulevard in Winona. I was on the Advocacy Center board, but ended up not renewing my tenure so I could spend more time with my family in April. But prior to that, I was the treasurer. I just wanted to clarify that the county funding that the Advocacy Center receives goes directly to support victim services and not education in our community. I am a nurse in our community as well, and I also want to reiterate that intimate partner violence is a public health crisis in our community and our nation, and not providing the support as a county is not going to help us long term to support the health of our community. So it's really important to me to make sure that you guys understand that we're not talking about the education component of the Advocacy Center. We're talking about the money that is going to direct victim support. And I would really like you to know as a community member that I would really, it's very important to me that you guys remember that this is actual people that are impacted by this who are getting real critical services. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Is there anyone else here in the audience or attending the meeting via Ring Central that would like to make a comment? I'm going to ask a couple more times. Is there anyone here in the room or attending via Ring Central that would like to make a comment? If so, please step forward.
Ben Daly, 17755 County Road 18, Utica, Minnesota. Sure, keep the cap. Bet you didn't think I was going to say that. Keep the cap, but then have a variance process that's not corrupt. We got email after email of Doug Nopar and Land Stewardship and the rest of the people in here that already spoke against the cap, talking to you, Ms. Meyer, you, Ms. Kavesi, and you, Greg Olson. We have proof that the variance process is corrupt. So if you're not going to do anything with the cap, fine. Then don't have a corrupt process with the variances. Disgusting. Furthermore, if you're talking about water and you're talking about our farm, we got approved by the MPCA not once, but twice. We wouldn't alter the environment significantly. Furthermore, if we want to talk about it, cover cropping and alfalfa and pasture, which Land Stewardship always talks about as one stuff that cleans water, we have the most in Winona County. The most. They advocate for it. They want their farmers to do it. And in fact, we have more cover crop and all that stuff, pasture, cover crop, alfalfa, at a better clip. Over 80% of our land is covered in Winona County. That's a better clip than Land Stewardship is asking the state to fund. Corrupt.
Kelly Stanage, 31775 Highway 76. I'm not here to advocate for or against any sort of feedlot limit or anything else, but I am getting very weary of having people accuse other folks of corruption. My understanding is that LSP is an advocacy organization, just like the Minnesota Dairy Association or the National Dairy Association. They advocate, they communicate with the people in power. That's their job. My opinion is that there is no corruption in this county. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here in the room or on the internet attending via Ring Central that would like to make a comment? Sorry about that.
My name is Susan Reed, 23981 Spells Drive, Minnesota City. And I have a question. I'm new to this, so maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do, but I'm wondering what the relationship is between this board and the materials that have been discussed that are in the public schools. If that could be defined, why that is a county commissioner issue as opposed to why it is something dealing with the Winona Public Schools. That's my question.
I will just share that during this process and this period for public comment, we don't interact with the public. So is there anyone else here in the audience or attending via Ring Central that would like to share their thoughts with us? Is there anyone else here in the room or on Ring Central that would like to share their thoughts with us? And this is the final time I'm going to make the call. Is there anyone else here in the audience or attending via Ring Central that would like to share during this public comment period? Hearing none, public comment is closed. Thanks, everyone. First order of business is approval of the May 10th County Board minutes.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Kavesi has seconded that we approve the County Board minutes from May 10th of 2022. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The next order of business is acknowledging the receipt of the approved committee minutes.
I'll move to acknowledge number 4.1, 4.3, and 4.4. And I don't sit on the Economic Development Authority, so 4.1, 4.3, and 4.4.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Ward has seconded approving the Whitewater Joint Powers Board meeting of February 17th of this year, Parks and Environment Committee meetings, February 9th and January 4th, both of this year. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted.
A motion to acknowledge 4.2.
I will. Okay, Commissioner Olson has moved and Commissioner Jacob has seconded the Economic Development Authority minutes for January 27th of this year. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved and acknowledged. Okay, the next order of business is the consent comments and the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Ward?
I would like to pull 6.2 for a separate discussion. And 6.8, some new information has become available.
So 6.2 will become 7.00, and that is the approval of the revised county board ground rules. And 6.8 has also been pulled. That would be 7.01. That is to approve the Minnesota Department of Agriculture Cooperative Agreement for Waste Pesticide Collection. Commissioner Kavesi.
Yes, I need to pull item 6.5 for a separate vote. I serve on the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center board, and I would need to recuse my vote.
Okay, so 6.5 has been pulled. It will become 7.02, approving the purchase, service, and business associate agreement with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center for mental health services.
Yes, and also I have an announcement at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Olson,
Nothing from me, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Jacob.
One future agenda item.
Okay, so a board action.
Sure.
Okay. Administrator Holty, anything for you? County Attorney Sonneman, anything?
Nothing for me.
Also, I have nothing. All right.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
So to start the general business, after the administrator reads the list. So
We need to approve vote on the
I get this backwards every time. And actually now I think that these are confusing me too. Okay, so Commissioner Jacob has approved and Commissioner Ward has seconded the amended agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is set. Okay, now Administrator Holty, can you please read our consent business for
Absolutely.
the record?
You've shortened it tremendously for me. Okay, 6.1, approve cooperative environmental health SSTS mutual aid agreement with Waukesha County. 6.2 has been pulled. 6.3, approve monthly resolution. 6.4, approve amendment number 2 for grant contract number GRK 181906 for child and teen checkups administrative services. 6.5 has been pulled. 6.6, approve cost share contract with Teresa Stokes for well replacement. 6.7, approve cost share contract with Mitchell and Sarah Steffen for equipment and installation to remove contaminants from water. 6.8 has been pulled. 6.9, confirm payment of disbursements. And 6.10, approve resolution declaring state of emergency.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the consent business as read. Second.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Olson has seconded that we go ahead and approve the consent business as read. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, consent business is passed. We will now move on to item 7.0, which is approving the revised county board ground rules.
Okay, I did ask for that to be pulled. After doing some additional homework, I feel that we erred. First of all, in our ground rules that were included in several packets, it states policy decisions shall not be revisited for 1 year period unless the situation or circumstances change substantially and a 4/5 majority of the county board agrees to reopen the policy for discussion. Right, that's right there. It's always in our packet. So with that said, back in January 6th of 2015, if you look at the official proceedings in the meeting minutes, on motion of Commissioner Pomeroy and seconded by Commissioner Kavesi, the board approved a rotation of districts for determining the positions of chair and vice chair effective this year and moving forward as follows. And it gave the rotation. That was voted on 5-0. To me, that is policy. That is ground rules, how the Winona County Board was going to continue their operations. Item 3, though, is I conferred with administration, and Ms. Holty provided that she was, the ground rules were revised in 2016, however, did not address this said process. Not sure, and I agree, not sure why the process wasn't added to the document. All right, so there is, to my belief, is acknowledgement that it is part of the document. It should have been there. It did not get there. Then we move on to January 8th of our county board meeting minutes. And it was, the motion was made by Commissioner Ward and seconded by Commissioner Jacob to follow chair rotation, nominating Commissioner Jacob as board chair. On motion, Commissioner Ward seconded Commissioner Jacob to amend the previous motion to elect, Commissioner Jacob as board chair. I'm not sure, that seems redundant.
Yeah,
Yeah, that seems redundant, but it is the official meeting and such. And then on motion of Commissioner Olson and seconded by Commissioner Meyer to nominate Commissioner Kavesi. And then it continues on, and on motion, that was voted then for.
Commissioner Ward,
Chair.
what year is that? You didn't.
This
say-
is 19,
2019, okay.
the first day that you were an active, duly elected county board commissioner. So the motion, Olson and seconded by Meyer to nominate Commissioner Kavesi as board chair passed 3-2. All right, so the other motions failed, 2-3. So to change the policy back on 19, in my opinion, following our board ground rules, it would have required a 4/5 vote to change that. 3-2 is not a 4/5 majority. So I feel all the discussion we had, unfortunately, about the rotation is mute. And our policy states that we adopted a rotation, and come January of 2021 or 2023, that the board rotation is back in process. And I would expect that to be followed. And I'm open to any discussion regarding that.
Oh, Commissioner Jacob.
So I can certainly see where your interpretation is. Bottom line is, this board as a whole can still review its policy, and then it'll probably draw the same conclusion that it drew. I agree with you that maybe the process didn't happen right at that time, but the will of the majority is going to still prevail. Just might take a couple more steps.
But it will take a 4/5 vote to bring it back for discussion, is the way I interpret it. And it never did. So there's the major flaw in how the process played out. Because it says and, it doesn't say or.
Read that first, your very first statement.
Yeah, the policy decisions, now this is in our ground rules. And I don't know if it was in this copy. I'm reading off the copy from 4/26/2022, item 7.3, general business, discussing updating county board ground rules. So it is number 8. Policy decisions shall not be revisited for a 1-year period unless the situation or circumstances change substantially and a 4/5 majority of the county board agrees to reopen the policy for discussion. So it's not a simple majority. That would be considered a super majority, 4/5. So it does say and. So my reasoning is back in 2019, when the discussion was had, it did not have a 4/5 agreement to even change the policy, is what I'm saying. So to my thinking, we should still be using a rotation system with an election to accomplish the statute, but follow the rotation.
Commissioner Olson.
I'm going to make a motion, we approve revised county board rule 6.2, so it is now 7.0.
That motion.
Is there further discussion? If not, I have.
Yeah, I'll support the motion because I'm not hearing any type of amendment or anything. So I think we do want to, do you feel like the work we've done on the rest of it, are you comfortable with that, or are you?
Yeah, if you're asking, yes, that part I'm okay. But when we took out the rotation, that we didn't do it procedurally correct. So I guess I got to throw the whole document out unless, and I see I probably don't have the support for it. And that is a violation of our rules. So we don't follow rules here. Our own rules.
I think ultimately even policy, if the policy is 4/5 and it's not a statute, that can be changed by the board themselves too, if they want to change it to simple majority.
Yes, it could be. I don't support that, but
Yeah.
it could.
So I don't see any power in this other than just delaying the inevitable. So I guess I'll, in the interest of not dragging things out, I'll support the motion.
Oh, Commissioner Olson's motion. Okay. I do have a question. So I would be interested in getting a ruling on this, and then a ruling and just advice in terms of the how to remedy it. If it's decided that this is correct.
And you're looking at me, right? I think.
Yeah, I am County Attorney Sonneman. Yeah. I'm looking for some
Change my
assistance.
glasses.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for some assistance. Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting question because the statute does say the board will vote at its first meeting on the chair and vice chair, and then the policy is. But I think I mean, Commissioner Ward has a point about A8,
Yes.
which is on page 33 of your packet.
Right.
So, but it's sort of which takes priority, the statute or the policy. So if you're asking me if I couldn't give you an opinion on that right now.
No, and I wouldn't expect you
okay,
to. Yeah.
okay. But I certainly can look into, right, if there's basically an inconsistency between the statute and the commission's, the county board's policy, what takes precedent.
I would appreciate that. Commissioner Ward.
Well, so again, if the group in the majority decides to support this policy, you're in direct conflict with the policy because it says and 4/5. So if you're supporting the document, then you're voting against the 4/5, which, as Commissioner Jacob pointed out, it can be changed, but this is what we're under the guidance currently. So I would say maybe even just table it. And I have asked AMC to do a little research as to how other county boards are doing it, because I do know a number of county boards use a rotation, and they didn't have anything in their files, but they were going to do some polling at the regional meetings and see what everybody else is doing.
Administrator Holton.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I actually had staff conduct a survey. What we have, I will send out to you. It's a mixed bag.
Right.
Everyone does it their own kind of unique way. But there are counties who do have the rotation, and it's been that way for many years in some of the organizations. So I'll send that out to you.
Mr. Ward, would you be willing to specify a board action to investigate the activity from 2019 so that we can?
I would move to table, and that will allow.
Well, there's already a motion on the floor.
Oh, okay. Great. Do we
That
want?
has been seconded. So is there further discussion, or do we want to vote?
I'll look at the procedure.
Commissioner Olson made the motion. Commissioner Jacob seconded it.
Kavesi second.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kavesi.
Commissioner Kavesi.
There's a plastic one underneath there.
On the other side?
Yep, there you
Okay.
Now the question is, are they willing to withdraw their motion?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if a motion to table can be made at the same time. I don't see that it can.
I don't think so. And my personal opinion is, because of the controversy over not having discussion on a motion before there's a motion on the floor, I would love to just move forward with the changes that we've made, but I'm not trying to preclude a conversation about the other issue. So I'd prefer to approve this as it is, and that Commissioner Ward bring her issue forward separately.
So
Mr. Jacob?
if we're in discussion, I don't see anything time sensitive that it couldn't wait to get that clarification. So I can see putting it on the table. So if Commissioner Ward has those specific concerns and she wants them answered, given that, I won't vote in favor of the motion as it stands, because there's no urgency on it that I can see.
Further discussion? I'm going to go ahead and call a voice vote. So those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed say nay. Commissioner Ward?
Nay.
Commissioner
Nay.
Kavesi? I'm going to do a voice vote. Commissioner Kavesi? Aye. Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacob?
Nay.
Commissioner Meyer votes aye. So requiring a 4/5 majority, this approval fails. The next item is 7.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So this is no longer a valid document because this document says 4/5. So this is not our ground rules.
Also, point of order, I'm certain that you can make a motion to table at any time. I think Commissioner Ward had the right to make the motion. That would be a question for legal.
Maybe she'd like to make it now.
Too late now.
Yeah, it's too late now. But again, if you're adopting, it's readopted these rules, you're in violation of your rules. We can leave it at that for now. January will come soon again.
Okay. Next item of agenda is 6.8 that was relabeled as 7.01. Approved Minnesota Department of Agriculture Cooperative Agreement for Waste Pesticide Collection. Would somebody like to make a motion so that discussion can begin?
Oh, I move to approve the new contract that we were provided with through Ms. Kay Qualley this morning. The issue I brought up was because of the the original document in our county board packet, item 17 had a vaccination and a testing mandate, which has been rescinded through the policy 1446 is what I understand. I did have a conversation this morning with Assistant Commissioner of Agriculture, and she assured me she would send us a new contract. I was surprised it came this quick, and Ms. Qualley worked on this also. So we have a clean contract for the waste pesticide collection, deleting that section 17. So I had moved to approve the contract for waste pesticide collection.
Okay, Commissioner Ward has moved. Commissioner Olson has seconded that we approve the revised contract that is where the paragraph 17 has been deleted that was addressing vaccine requirements or masking requirements. Is there just further discussion? I believe that Commissioner Director Qualley would like to speak to us.
Thank you, commissioners. It kind of took a team through Office of Management and Budget calls from staff, MDA being very responsive, and in order to provide this valuable service for the next 5 years for both agricultural pesticide removals as well as non-ag household pesticide removals. So I believe that the deletion of this Office of Management and Budget 1446 directive through the state agencies will be very welcome by staff and all of you as well. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Ward?
I would just like clarification because I didn't have time. What is policy 1446?
So this comes from the Office of Management and Budget, and it addresses vendors, staff that are implementing grants through state agencies. So if you'll recall back, the chloride monitoring grant had that language in it from the MPCA. We knew that we would be starting to see it clicking into all of the state agencies, and that's in fact what it was. So when I spoke to the Office of Management and Budget, Rachel there, she stated that that came from above, and so it was coming to Management and Budget through that memo and into all contracts. So we would have seen it in a lot more places. And our collection of pesticides and household waste through a large and open building and interacting with people less than 10 minutes would not have been problematic with the provision, but it being removed makes it much cleaner.
So 1446 removes that from all Winona or Minnesota contracts, the requirement for vaccination and
Madam
testing.
Chair and Commissioner Ward,
That is my understanding. We received confirmation from the MPCA in an email today as well. So I think you can extrapolate that. I just haven't heard from other agencies, but I would presume so, yes.
If you could forward that email, I would just like to see how they worded it, please.
Yes, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We would be approving 7.01, which is approving the Minnesota Department of Agriculture Cooperative Agreement for Waste Pesticide Collection. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Next item is, used to be 6.5, it's 7.01, which is approving a purchase of services and business associate agreement with Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center for mental health services.
So moved.
Mr. Olson has moved to approve. I will second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kvesi.
Yes, since I serve on the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center Board, I would need to recuse myself. I strongly support the work of this organization. These services are critical services that are not available in other organizations, including medical management, psychiatric services, and nursing services to the residents at Hiawatha Bluffs.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will go ahead and call for a voice vote. Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
Mr. Kvesi?
Recuse.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacob?
Aye.
Meyer votes aye too. Okay, motion is passed. The next item of business is 7.1, which is to discuss the continuation of public access through virtual meetings. Because there is not a specific motion to kick off this discussion, perhaps someone could suspend the rules to start a discussion?
And we already passed that motion that,
Agenda's approved.
but just.
We had modified, Commissioner, we had modified our policy, but that we did not approve it, so. We are still running under the rules where in order for a discussion to happen, there has to be a motion and it has to have been seconded.
No. You just voted, you passed the new rules.
No, it took a 4/5 approval and it failed.
Okay, but then that change of having a motion to start a discussion was never approved under a 4/5 vote. That's something that
No, that is how Robert's Rules of Order read, and that is how
That's how you're running the meeting, so.
that is how Robert's Rules of Order read. And that we had made a change to suspend that so that we could have discussion without, we've not been following Robert's Rules of Order clearly for years.
and that's okay.
your
I mean, that's not
interpretation.
problematic, but that's okay because it's what we ever agreed to do.
There are individuals who came forward and were concerned that I was not properly following Robert's Rules of Order, so I'm attempting to do that.
Okay, so now I apologize. Now you have me confused. So 6.2, we're not following. We're not following those county board ground rules.
Not the revised ones that would allow for discussion without there being a motion on the floor.
No, that is the revised.
We didn't prove those, though. You voted against it.
Okay, so you were acknowledging the 4/5
Yes,
vote.
yes.
Okay.
Motion to open discussion on 7.1.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Olson has moved, Kvesi has seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Okay, motion still passes. Okay,
Okay, so this is an item that I brought forward. I think we're onto we've got through the first two and we're onto the third. This is officially,
I think this is the third meeting, yeah.
so it's so cumbersome.
A little star.
But once we went through the whole COVID issue. Previous to that, we didn't have this video and audio interaction with the public that we grew accustomed to using for the last 24 months. And so we haven't really voted formally on any policy. So I think we should establish a policy that includes, for transparency and for public participation, to continue that model, along with in-person at the podium, but also if the public wants to participate in our meetings, anything that's any of our advisory committees, if the public wants to participate in those meetings, I think we should formally as a board establish policy that includes audio, video feeds into our meetings. It's been, I think, effective for the last couple of years. It adds public participation, adds transparency. So that's why I asked to have this on the agenda, and it says discuss. I don't know if we want to hammer something out specifically that we want staff to move forward with.
Ms. Qualley would like to make a comment. Thank you, Director Qualley.
Thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, some of the meetings that are held in my department, such as Parks and Environment, are held on site. And so having staff coordinate Ring Central for the taping of the participation would be extremely problematic. So obviously we tape those meetings, we make that transcript available and the original tape. And we could certainly have somebody phone into such a meeting because we can easily set a phone down. But when we're on site with a meeting, obviously, the equipment and nobody's in front of a computer. So I just wanted to make that point as you're continuing your discussion, and thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Ms. Qualley, what do you mean by on-site?
So parks meetings rotate between the parks during the season. And so not all of the year are we in a boardroom or in a room with a computer to allow the public to either show their face or to interact in a Ring Central or Zoom type meeting. So in order to conduct the business of the Parks and Environment Committee, it's important to be in situ during the weather that accommodates that. So just as another point for your discussion. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? If not, I have some questions. Commissioner Ward.
I would like staff to go through, our committees and determine if it's, what options are available, if it's video or just phone, and to give us some ground basis to draft a policy. I totally support allowing people to phone in or to video in. I think it's a valuable resource. And I don't know if it's just the question would be, is it our advisory committee meetings, or is it, other committee meetings that people want access to? Of course, this meeting is broadcast. I think planning, Parks and Environment, Health and Human Services, anything that has an advisory capacity to it definitely needs to. I don't know if there's any other things that we want to add to that or exclude from that.
Commissioner Jacob?
Yeah, I've had requests from the public just for as much transparency as possible. Anything that can be Zoomed live, anything that's recorded, put on YouTube, any way that they can be involved. They both want to have the ability to view what's going on, and if it's a discussion period where we've got public comment open, they want to be able to have that option as well. So I think any time that the technology is available, we should be implementing it.
And with Ms. Qualley's comments, if it's a remote site, I mean, definitely phone, like you indicated, phone would be available, but not, the Zoom capability. But it would be posted. Yeah, it would be posted. It should be posted ahead of time so people understand. And then, of course, it would be posted if they wanted to show up at the location. I totally agree. The more transparency, the better.
I just had one concern over Ms. Qualley's, Director Qualley's park and rec remote location, just to make sure they're handicapped accessible at all times. If you're gonna have a meeting somewhere, that they have to be open to the.
So says discussion, do we have the direction we need or do we?
I would like to make some comments. I've been waiting to speak last. So I did have some questions. So it looks to me like the rules that regarding the open meeting law apply based on the definitions in the statute that they apply to all our committees. I heard in the past sometimes that they didn't apply to appointments, only to electeds, right? So, but they do apply to everyone. And what we're asking for then is not that sitting members be able to attend remotely, but really only for residents or citizens to be able to listen in and make public comment. Because it looks to me like from the statute that we would have to notice the meeting if someone wants to attend remotely, and then they must have both audio and video, and that they have to be at a location where the members of the public could come there, and those items are still back in effect, right?
Well, what I provided here shows that there's a difference between whether or not you're meeting under the health emergency, pandemic emergency versus just saying that you're going to meet remotely. There's less conditions. I mean, I think what came out of the pandemic is that they changed the law so that you can have more remote, both from presence of the board, but also public interaction remotely. But if there's not a pandemic declared or the meeting's not practical, or it's still practical to meet in person, you can still meet, but you have to be able to see and hear. Now, if you as chair or I as legal counsel declare that there's still enough of a health emergency that everybody should meet, then you don't have to see people, you only have to hear them. And you don't have to make your, say, house available if you decided, for instance, to appear at the board meeting from your house because of the pandemic.
Or my hospital room.
Or right, wherever, or the room over there or something. So there is a difference, and that's where you have to be pretty clear. Okay, are you meeting under health pandemic rules, or pandemic or state of emergency rules, or are you meeting under just I'll call it the normal, now new normal remote rules?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and what I stated though is accurate in terms of the new normal remote rules, right?
Right now, I don't think, because the state of emergency was allowed.
It's rescinded, yeah.
Yes.
Or is that?
Although maybe now we have a rain emergency, right?
That's not the same, that's not the same.
No. But there's still, it depends. I mean, we're, I think, still under, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Klinger, if we're still under a high transmission, okay, we are, is that enough to declare from your perspective as chair, or legal counsel can also do it, that any meeting, for practical and for prudent reasons should be.
But we would first need to declare.
Yes,
the
right.
emergency,
But now the law is that it allows you to have remote meetings. Public can come in through interactive technology. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jacob.
Yes. Just for clarification, just divorce the whole emergency management or emergency scenario. Just say that doesn't exist under these rules. That's what I'm trying to understand, is how our meetings look, what participation we can have. And then I also read in there for elected officials or appointed officials that remote, with the new laws applies only up to 3 times a year, right? I think I read that in there.
I don't know.
You
I mean,
could
there's
have,
3
you could
times a year.
attend remotely, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Um,
You could audio, video 3 times a year maximum. Other than that, you needed to be in person.
That is different than what they say in the facts
Yeah.
sheet
I
on
think
page
that-
114.
I think that disappeared. Yes. Basically, unless you're sick, or have some health emergency.
What it says is there's nothing in the open meeting law that limits the number of times a board member may virtually attend a meeting. The only statutory limitation is related to the number of times that a remote location can be closed to the public for personal or family medical reasons during or within the 60 days after the state of emergency only.
Yeah, so that's emergency stuff again.
Yeah, that is, that's right.
I mean, as I read it, the legislature ultimately made changes. And the data practices office, which carries out these rules for open meeting and data practices, they changed their name to data practices office. Came up with, some more practical, now that we're all used to, right, Zoom and everything else, that we can appear virtually and the public can appear virtually. So, yeah.
I do have concern though, and I do see the legislature provided more money for broadband. There's many times at my own location, I can do video, I can do audio, but I will lose video. So, and I know it talks about in here,
Yep, there was
if
a
you,
case, yep.
yeah, if you logged on, so say the county board was meeting and for some reason I decided to stay at Four Farms Road. I log in, I can get video and I can get audio, but then during the meeting, the video causes
lose video.
problems. You lose video.
Mhm.
So then are you still effectively allowed to vote or then you're out of the
No, then you lose
the
that.
voting?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean,
So you could lose a quorum.
it is problematic across the state of Minnesota, depending on
Mhm.
where you live and stuff. So it's not clear.
So drive to the nearest, like, what good Wi-Fi spot,
Yeah.
which may be hard in a blizzard, right?
Yeah, it can be questionable. Yeah, it can be questionable. Because you do have to be both audio and visually to make it work.
Yeah, and the other thing that stayed with these rules is that there has to be at least one person who's appearing in person.
Yes.
To conduct the meeting.
And you're talking still outside of an emergency?
Yeah. Both. Somebody has to be here. You can't have
Yeah,
a
but,
full
I
remote
mean,
meeting.
That still seems like yeah, that you're saying like a snowstorm and none of the commissioners can make it in, we'd still be allowed to have the meeting if
I don't think so. I don't think so, because you have to notice it properly and it wouldn't have been noticed.
but she's saying if one commissioner is here.
So we could, let's say, decide and notice a meeting where everybody but one of us was here, but wherever,
Nobody but one of us is here.
only one of us is here. And everyone else would have to be noticed as exactly where they're meeting, and you would have to be in a place that was open to the public. We could do that. I don't see us doing that, but we could do that. Okay, so what are our wishes to go forward?
So I think for clarity, we're gonna just be following state statutes, and this is gonna be outside of the special emergency provisions. And so I'd like to just follow statutes with respect to where elected officials have to be, but add to it whenever the technology is available for the public to be able to continue just what we've been doing for the last 2 years. That's, I don't know if staff has got.
I got it.
And bring that back to us as maybe a formal policy that we can vote on. Okay.
Should we do this by consensus, Commissioner?
Well, I just think the agenda item identifies it's for public access. It shouldn't include our own convenience or inconvenience. It should be for the public's convenience. So
Yeah, this really isn't about, we're gonna just follow statute. But this is,
Commissioner Ward wants to be on camera, so.
Yeah, I like. Yeah.
Go for
there
it.
might be statute that allows that.
My
I think it's
grandkids like
I
to
hope not.
YouTube me.
With this, just moving forward as a consent without a formal,
You know, just come back as a policy that we can review. and
Yeah,
vote on.
to bring something back. Good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Right, item 7.2, approve or deny a future agenda item for discussion on the animal unit cap. Would someone like to make some kind of a motion so that discussion can begin?
Discussion.
I'll second it. So Commissioner Jacob has moved, Meyer has seconded that we open discussion on approve or deny a future agenda item for discussion on the animal unit cap. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, discussion's open.
Okay, so what prompted me to bring this to discussion was at our last meeting, feedlot officer got up and, brought the dairy as a whole in Winona County and statewide to our attention. And, with the dairy census that came out, it's been a couple of years ago already at this point, but it seems like this is being, maybe more from the amount of dairy cows to the amount of dairy farms. And as technology changes, times change, we don't operate under the same technology that we did 20 years ago. Farmers aren't operating under the same technology as they did 20 years ago. It's been 20 years since we've looked at this. So regardless of what's happening with the number of farms, it's very clear that the number of dairy animals in Winona County is being reduced. And we're seeing, video of or news stories of farmers saying point blank, we're leaving the county because of the animal unit cap. And there's neighboring counties that don't have an animal unit cap. And in fact, one of the largest dairies in the county is in my neighborhood, and he's exactly on the county line, and he's expanding into Wabasha County. So we're losing all that, both from our economy standpoint, and in my opinion, it's repeating the same thing time and time again, whether it's true or not, doesn't make it more true. So there's a lot of benefits that for our environment that go with having dairy animals in our county. First and foremost, dairy animals consume alfalfa. Alfalfa is a filtration crop. It certainly helps to stabilize the soil. So moving these animals out of our county for any purpose is not helping our environment. It's damaging our environment. And furthermore, then when we move the dairy cows out, we end up with more row crops. And then we end up with more anhydrous ammonia. And so that's certainly more susceptible to leaching anhydrous ammonia through row crops into the environment than what alfalfa and dairy cows are. So, there's a lot of reasons why we should be looking at this issue. And to just say we won't even look at it, that seems just closed mind. I mean, we should be open to doing the best thing, not just for the environment, in my opinion. And I sit on the Whitewater Joint Powers Board. I sit on the liaison to the Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm a conservation farmer myself. I practice no-till. I implement cover crops. So I understand these types of issues, and I want to take good care of our environment. But this policy is not just damaging our environment, it's damaging our economy. When it damages our economy, everyone has to pay more taxes. When we send economic drivers out of our county, each dairy animal has an economic value as well as a potential to improve our environment. So, and a few other pieces that the emails that I got, and I have to say, the first 30 emails I got, of course, reading them all, looking at them, 25 of them had the same misspelling of the word does. So I would immediately go to that spot and look at. So we're just getting somebody from above using a bunch of people to say the same thing, whether it's true or not. And to me, it's a little bit like if I say this cup is black and 30, 50 more people get up and say it's black, well, we all know it's not black. So just saying the same thing more doesn't make it more true. I'm frustrated with receiving, I don't know, in fact, I don't know exactly what the word plagiarism means, but when you sign your name to something that you didn't write, that takes credibility away from it to me personally. But I read them all and I take the phone calls and I take it all serious. Another piece that we tend to just completely overlook is this a karst region? Absolutely. But Lewiston, Utica, and Altura are in the heart of that area. All three of those cities have lost their septic sewage ponds into the ground. So blaming everything on the farmers who we can regulate very well, we should be looking at it and trying to determine what the source of the contamination is. If it's something other than the farmers, for us to all sit here and point our fingers at the farmers who are quite heavily regulated. The larger the farm, the more we can regulate that farm, the more we're making sure that that farmer is spreading their manure out over the proper amount of acres. The smaller the farm, the more likely they are to be able to fall through that, more likely they are to be able to spread their manure in the wintertime on frozen ground. Then when the spring thaw comes, that manure can run right off the frozen ground into our lakes and rivers and streams. So there's a myriad of reasons why we should be looking at this. So that's why I brought the item up. I'd like to get it onto a future agenda so that we can have full, meaningful discussions. And I guess I'll bring up lastly that early on, Commissioner Meyer, when you were first seated, this item was brought forward and you said, well, I will address it after we have the dairy census. Well, this dairy census has been here for multiple years. So you said that you would look at it, yet we haven't looked at it. So I'd like the board to have full, meaningful discussion. I'd listen to all the constituents from the concerns that they're saying that the nitrogen is coming from the large dairies. I listen to that, but I think there's more to it than that, and we should be looking at all the scenarios.
Bessie.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Jacob, for your advocacy on this topic. I do repeat that if something is repeated often enough, doesn't make it true, can apply in a lot of directions. It's my understanding that since we are still under suit over this issue, that it would not be advisable to discuss it fully at this time. So I would be against the motion to have a full board discussion under legal advice. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Commissioner Ward.
I would support a discussion, and I've responded to a lot of emails saying discussion doesn't mean change. It means an honest, a fact-finding, best management practice discussion. And I had to sit and think. We just talked about Zoom. Well, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have had Zoom. We don't want to change our policy. We wouldn't be doing Zoom tomorrow. I wouldn't have received a lot of these emails and correspondence through emails and texts because it didn't exist 20 years ago. My opinion is that any of our policies, finance, health and human services, courts, anything that the county does, the processes and the discussions that are 20 years old or at whatever time should be discussed. We can't keep doing business the way we used to. We should have an open, honest discussion. Discussion doesn't always mean change, but it does mean open, honest discussion. So from that standpoint, I think it's worthy of discussion. I didn't put us in litigation over this. My actions didn't resolve in litigation. So I think some of the board, we should be discussing this because we have an economic development authority. And here we have our major economic driver in this county, and we're saying, no, we got to put this on hold. We can't discuss it because we're under litigation. We'll probably always be under litigation. And I just think it's a disservice to not discuss. And I know that people have said no, no, please don't discuss. There's a very large silent group that says discuss. They just haven't voiced their opinions yet. We've heard that in the past. I think it deserves discussion.
Is there further discussion? I would just add that we did have this conversation back in 2019 in a special working session. And it resulted in advice from our council that night and then from the MCIT council following in the form of a letter that it was something we really should not be discussing in public because of litigation. So I can't support the discussion. Mr. Jacob.
I didn't bring up any specific dairy or this is about policy. And if the policy were changed, it could immediately end the litigation. So to take advice that we should not discuss it so that we stay embroiled in litigation seems like counterproductive to the taxpayer.
Commissioner Kvesi.
Yeah, I don't think we're not discussing it so that we can stay under litigation. We don't have any control over that. And that was not this board that made that decision. It's just that the topic of the suit covers the animal unit cap and the economy of that. So while that's the topic of the suit, I don't think it's reasonable for us to discuss the suit, basically.
I didn't bring the suit up. So by not addressing it, we're prolonging, we're conscientiously voting to stay embroiled in litigation that could potentially be resolved by removing the animal unit cap.
That's up to the courts, excuse me.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in.
Just wait, do we have a motion?
No, we don't have a motion. You're right.
That's what I was
There's
wondering.
nothing to move on, pardon me. Mr. Ward.
Commissioner Kvesi's comment that we're let the courts. We're all about local control. It's unfortunate that we let the courts make decisions like this for us. Common sense, hardworking people, with the right discussion, I think could resolve a lot of this. But we're letting the court, who has no local ties, to benefit from our decisions.
So I'll make a motion to move this forward to a full county board discussion.
I'll second to have the discussion.
Okay. So Commissioner Jacob has moved that we move this item forward to a future board agenda for a full discussion. Commissioner Ward has seconded that. And as our policy states, this would need 3 votes in order to move forward. Is there discussion? Commissioner Kvesi?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Ward. It is unfortunate to let the courts decide. That's out of our hands. That's between the litigant and the Board of Adjustment and the county by default, kind of. So that's out of our hands to let the courts decide. I don't know what else to say about that. It's not our decision to keep it in court.
Is there further discussion? Well, there is a motion on the floor now. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion fails. 7.3 is the next agenda item. Approve, deny future agenda item to review the Advocacy Center and outside agency funding. Would anyone like to make a motion so we can begin discussion on this topic?
I will move to open discussion.
I am not hearing a second.
Oh, I'll second it for discussion.
Mr. Jacob has moved and Commissioner Ward has seconded. Moving forward with this discussion of item 7.3. Any discussion about moving forward? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, discussion is open.
Yeah, so I asked to have this on the agenda, and I guess it's no secret, I've had concerns when we do our budget, review our budgets from year to year about outside agencies in general and the amount that we fund outside agencies. And it's problematic to me in general, just because these agencies are not agencies that the county board has much or any control over. So I've had heartburn with that and have voted against a lot of this outside agency funding for that very reason. But subsequently, after this sexually explicit material came forward a few weeks ago within the community at our schools, and then constituents they've come forward to me, many constituents, they're very concerned about, first of all, that would ever happen to begin with. And second of all, that their taxpayers' dollars, which we as a group are approving, are funding an organization that's doing such things. So the advocacy group themselves, they can say that, well, the 15,000 is going for this other thing, but the reality is once we give them 15,000, they do whatever they're going to do that their group does. So we can't give them money and say it's okay for this. Meanwhile, you're doing these other things that we don't approve of. There's no way to divorce those two pieces. If we're giving them money and they're doing these things that are highly offensive to parents and families in our community, I think it certainly merits discussion that we would review this and hear what the community has to say about the issue. So I'm very specifically talking about advocacy funding or funding for the advocacy center at this point. But then in general, as we go through our budget, I think we should be looking at all of our outside agency funding, but specifically right now at what's transpired with this sexually explicit material being disseminated in our local schools. So I'm looking to get this onto a full board discussion.
Other thoughts? Commissioner Ward?
Yes, and I've had a lot of people call and concerned about this, and something that I hope the school boards in every one of our schools is taking very seriously. I do have some, from the letter we received, some, I don't know, it doesn't make me feel good that the employee was terminated. I mean, the damage was done. Yes, it's saying the employee was terminated, and that's unfortunate, because you shouldn't ever put an employee out in the public without proper training and oversight. That was a very dangerous thing to do, and I'm sure that the advocacy people have learned that. But it does say when we received requests for funds, it does say if the request is not approved, how will the agency adjust? And it says without funding from Winona County, valuable resources will be diverted from other programming and operations. And then it goes on to say that they have $120,000. I guess I hate to get too deep into other organizations, but they have an unrestricted, that's a huge dollar amount. And where's that coming from? And if anything, if we, I've always called this philanthropic giving with property tax dollars, which I find very problematic also, is that if we raise the attention and the people feel so important that this is a good service, and I think they do good work, they just somehow it got messed up. It's not a mandated service, because I polled a number of other counties and they don't fund anything like this. So this is something that, you know, that we do. I guess I'm not ready to cut their funding today, but moving forward, I don't know if we ask where this 120,000, you know, what they use that for, because as Commissioner Jacob said, our dollars are mixed with their dollars, and I don't know that we can separate them. Now, people have asked for transparency and such. We did get a letter dated 5/11 of 2021, and it says that they served 615 clients, and it breaks down that. So we do get some reporting back, if not limited. But to have total assets of $215,997.44 as of March 31, 2021, I don't think our 15 is crucial. But again, ours is mixed in with theirs. And if they're doing things like this, which are totally inappropriate, in my opinion, to any students, any age, or even any adult, we have to scrutinize it. How we do that, I'm not sure.
What, Commissioner Ward, what year was that? The number, the 615?
That was in our memo. It says for 2020.
2020? Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was a memo that was a letter sent to us, 5/11/2021.
Commissioner Kavesi?
Yeah, I'd like to address the comments from, I believe it was Susan Reed in her public comments to us. She asked, what's the relationship of the county board to the materials in publication or in the public? So this is based on our email from our interim administrator. There was one school involved, and the advocacy center had been invited to come to the school and do a presentation on prevention and healthy relationship information. There was a social worker present during the school meeting. And at the end of the meeting, unfortunately, the wrong materials were handed out. Those materials were intended for a different audience, and it was an error. The consequence, and the Advocacy Center of Winona has addressed this by a strong apology, by relieving the staff who was trained, and it was just an error, and revising the material. And there's also board action from the Advocacy Center to review all of their materials and their policy regarding public education, community education. The second fact is that, yes, the board does contribute $15,760 to provide victim services. And these are defined. We have a contract with the Advocacy Center to define those. And I believe these statistics, which this is part of, yes, they would be from 2020. This is part of the memo from our interim administrator, says that these services included emergency safe homes for individuals to flee an abuser, the accompaniment to the emergency room following an assault, safety planning for victims and their families, transportation and food and personal items. And then the information goes on to say that during 2020, the Advocacy Center served 615 clients. It's more than one a day. 6,161 victim services were provided. So of that list that I read, people had multiple services. So those are facts. The community education and public education funds from the Advocacy Center come from a separate budget. They do not come out of that contract for $15,760, $760. So the other fact is that in the past, the board has been not supportive of efforts to do prevention activities and direct services for victims in the same way that the Advocacy Center provides it. So if we withdraw this funding and it affects the kinds of victim services that are available in the community, it seems like that would be that would fall back to the county to put that into those services into our budget. Had one more point and it's gone, so it'll come up later. Thank you.
Commissioner Jacob.
So I think Commissioner Kavesi has made the point very clear that we need to have a future discussion on this. Clearly, Commissioner Ward and I have concerns specifically about the funding, whether we should be continuing it. Commissioner Kavesi has reasons why we should be continuing it. I'm saying probably we should not be continuing it. Well, I'd say definitely we should not be continuing it. So with multiple commissioners on multiple sides of the issue, I'll make the motion to move this to a future agenda item for full board discussion.
I will second, because I do feel it deserves further discussion and clarity. With Commissioner Kavesi's point, I'm not sure how they can run a 24-hour hotline, service 615 clients for our $15,000. So that's telling me county money is commingled with other funds. And that's the concern of the taxpayer, is what funds are being used for what? Are we, encouraging this kind of, the problem that exists? Are we part of encouraging it? I don't think you can run a hotline for 15,000. So how is our money really, they say it's used only for that, but then what do they supplement it with? I mean, how do they run it? I don't know how that they could run it at that dollar amount.
Mr. Kavesi.
Yeah, I don't want to be misinterpreted. I am not in favor of a full discussion at this time. I would let it come up during our regular budget discussions, just as we discuss all of the options, including options to strengthen our staff and our resources in this area. And to Commissioner Ward's point, the contract does not say that $15,000 funds all of these services. I think that would be obvious. What it does say is that no public education or community education is being funded out of that $15,000.
Mr. Olson.
I'm not going to support the motion just because I believe it's kind of going the wrong direction. We're going to be the morality police here. I think they acknowledge their mistake. They acknowledge the mistake happened. And then I get emails with this same material that is so disgusting that is being handed out like Halloween candy. I don't know how many emails I got with it. So it's, who's the victim and who's the perpetrator here? So I'm not going to, I think they've explained what happened. I think they have addressed what happened. And I don't see any reason to attack them further.
Mr. Jacob.
Well, very specifically, the victim are the families that received the inappropriate, sexually explicit, suggestive material, and the perpetrators are the ones who distributed it. And if this board decides today to not even have a discussion on this, I think that's making a statement that they support what's happening. To not even listen to it, to not even hear it.
I think delaying it, we're going to start budgeting soon. I mean, you're already in the budgeting process and we're going to get these requests. And one thing that we probably don't have, I know in the past we've asked for more financial information from all these people requesting money for us, more of a contract as a service provided with the numbers and everything. I think we need to create a better public purpose policy for expenditures. And some counties have this. They've adopted public purpose guidelines for the establishment of operating policies and procedures and the appropriate expenditure of public funds. We're expending public funds, taxpayer dollars. I think we need to tighten up what we ask for information, how we get the information, the timeliness of the information to determine what we're doing with taxpayer dollars. So I think we should start the discussion now because we're going to be getting requests very soon. It's end of May. They're going to come in. I think they're already being asked to send them in as early as June. So I don't think we should delay this. I think Commissioner Jacob putting it on the table now will draw clarity to everybody that's asking for public dollars.
Is there further discussion? Otherwise, I would like to make a comment. I think that the proposal of this and the discussion of this really drags the county into business, which is not county business. The mistake that was made and the apology that happened, you identified yourself, Commissioner Ward, that it's the school board. So it seems to me that this issue really is between the advocacy center and the school, and that they are addressing it. And that to remove the funding would hurt the victims of sexual assault and domestic violence, which is the last thing that I want to do. So I don't think that I'm not going to support moving this forward or dragging the county into business, which is really not our business. It's being resolved by the entities that are involved. Commissioner Jacob.
If being responsible with the taxpayers' dollars that we're taking from the taxpayer and not holding those accountable that are dispersing those taxpayers' dollars and how they disperse them, if that's not the business of this county board, then I don't know what the business of this county board is. To say that we just take the money and once we give it out, no, that's not our business. I can't get there. I can't get there.
I don't think we are doing that. I believe that the Advocacy Center is dealing with the issue that was created.
And
Mr. Kavesi.
Yeah, I agree. I think the issue is between the individual school, one school, an error made or a mistake made, and the consequences. And the Advocacy Center has been dealing with that and are continuing to deal with that. The other point is that in our community, domestic violence and sexual violence, unfortunately, is not only one of the highest reported criminal activities in our county, but it's also one of the most dangerous for our law enforcement staff to enter on. It's a very volatile situation from what I understand. And it's a very difficult situation for our staff to walk into. If the Advocacy Center is providing services, and they are providing services directly to the victims and also prevention services, I think that relieves the county in some ways of contributing to those efforts, although I'd be willing to have this come up again when we have a budget discussion on all of the requests. I think the Advocacy Center has provided a very complete background for their request for funds, for also a letter regarding the request for funds that provides some more information than the form does. They provided budget information, so I think they've fulfilled their requirement for their request for public funds. So I'm against the motion to have a full discussion. I'd be willing to have a discussion as we do always for our when our budget requests come up.
Mr. Jacob.
Having a discussion is a way to bring awareness to the public. So the media will cover the issue and the public will see what happened. They'll be more likely to reach out to us. So for this board to simply say, we don't even want to look at the issue, to vote that way is really to say that you approve of what's happening. That's my view. So we're not even going to let the public weigh in. So I don't approve of what's happening. I want to be on public record saying that. That's why I'm bringing this forward. If the board doesn't even want to discuss it, look at it, that's a statement of approval of from those who don't want to look at the issue, in my view.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacob, for speaking, not for me, but the Advocacy Center didn't approve of it, so I don't think any of us approved of it. And for that reason, I'm still not going to vote for your motion.
The further discussion? Hearing none. Do we have a motion on the floor? It was made by
Yes.
Commissioner Jacob and seconded by Commissioner Ward to move this agenda item forward to a future meeting for a full discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 And the motion fails. Committee reports and communications. So Commissioner Ward.
No, I didn't have anything at this time.
Now I'm trying to find my front page. I know that Commissioner Jacob did.
I just had an announcement.
Commissioner Kvesi, please.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to thank all of the people who organized and participated in the courthouse open house event over the weekend. It was very well attended. I had some very good discussions with the public on the activities in the building, the resources that are there. And also, since I was on the 4th floor, we had almost a bird's eye view of the new jail. So we had a lot of discussion on opportunities with the new jail. So unfortunately, I walked away with my name tag, so I'll pass this back to Attorney General Sonneman. Attorney
General. Yeah.
Running for a higher office.
She has not announced yet, and so I don't want to take away her thunder.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Sorry, that to Attorney Sonneman, County Attorney Sonneman. And thanks to all that participated. We even had Larry the dog available for
Larry the skeleton.
down in the
Larry the skeleton.
Skeleton.
Larry the skeleton. Okay.
There was a dog.
There was a dog.
Charlie was his name.
Charlie, okay.
That was, yeah, that was the
See,
jail
that was when
administrator.
This was on the basement in the morgue level. I was on the 4th floor, so yes. But yes, we had quite a array of visitors, and I appreciate the public supporting this, and I appreciate the support from our staff to set it up.
Commissioner Jacob?
Yes, it seems like this should be a very simple item. It shouldn't require board discussion, but our kind of policy to not micromanage or get involved with staff. I don't really ever feel like I have any other way, but I've had constituents complain to me about our video. When people speak at the podium, we have the person from the back. The camera should obviously be from the front of that person. And then rather than having the timer up while those people are speaking, we should have the video of that person speaking. And we have the technology. I mean, it just needs, I mean, it's just a piece that needs to get done. But I don't have any authority to tell staff do this. So to me, I guess my only way that I have authority is to bring it as a full future agenda item to get those items resolved.
I would second that. I did get some complaints from about the audio in the room.
And
yeah, that if there are folks whispering or talking in the back, they can't hear us. So I'd love to see us improve some of those items. I agree with the things that you've said as well, Commissioner Jacob. Mr. Klinger, did you? Oh.
Yeah, speaker.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Kvesi to adjourn this meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You see the board view is teeny tiny, and if you watch on YouTube, you'll see a big